Good evening. This is week one of the 13-week fiscal program for American Descendants of Slavery. My name is Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator, Chief Quiet Water, as well as Chief Black Coat. And here we focus more so on the first letter in the acronym ADOS, which is American. Today we will start off with the readings of the 12 steps by Chief Black Coat.
How y'all doing? Pull this up for y'all. All right. 13-week practical program of actions for each American descendant of slavery. Step number 1, learn about the state or states your family originated from. Step number 2, who established that estate. Step number 3, what nation or confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Step number 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend what's your position on reparations. Step number 5, they either support it or they don't. No money, no support, no money. However, if they support it, then immediately children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3, and field trips to ADOS landmarks in that city, county, and state. Step number 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Step number 7, avoid spending money with any small business that doesn't hire your people, gas stations, nail salons, subways, etc. Step number 8, all businesses need operating cash, spend money with American Black businesses. Step number 9, all other groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. Set the trends of making the other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Step number 10, the U.S. government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative teething. The U.S. dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off full faith of its citizens to pay debts and taxes. American descendants of slavery no longer have faith in the United States government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Step number 12, teach your kids 1 hour a day about their history on the land. For example, A, have them learn about a Black inventor, have them know about our heroes. They should know the Europeans that conquered the state you live in. They should know the nation of people prior to the European invasion, military and culturally. Step number 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we are claiming in America and attaches us to the history and laws of the United States government. Each state American descendant of slavery live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3, advertised via social media, radio, newspaper. This in 13-week, one physical quarter will bring us together for our common cause.
Thank you, Chief Black Coat. Next, we'll go ahead and have Chief Alligator with the Inventor for this week.
All right. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Tonight's Inventor is going to be the gentleman behind me. His name is R.B. Spikes. One of the inventions that he gave to the world was the transmission and shifting thereof. So you would not be driving in automobiles today without that transmission shifting gears. Federal patent number is going to be 1936996. And that federal patent date is November 28th, 1933. Mr. Spikes was born October 2nd, 1878. He died January 22nd, 1963. He was born in American Indian Territory. We want to be careful with that word Indian. Basically, he was born in what we now know as Oklahoma. His father owned a barbershop. Spikes learned the trade of cutting hair from his father. Spikes also owned and operated barbershops in San Francisco, Fresno, and Stockton, California. So again, Robert B. Spikes, there would be no transmission and there would be no automobile if it wasn't for him because he invented the transmission. That's this American inventor.
Thank you to Chief Alligator. I'll go ahead and continue with the quote for this week. Dr. Woodson quote I'm going to read is quote number 1 here. Philosophers have long conceded, however, that every man has 2 educators, that which is given him and the other that which he gives himself. Of the 2 kinds, the latter is by far more desirable. So that is the week for, that is a quote for this week from Dr. Carter G. Woodson. Next, we'll have Chief Quietwater read off the legal definitions as well as the maroon historical points.
All right. So I'll start off with the legal definitions. Number 1, American, a native of America. Number 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, school, any situation at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number 6, education, an enlightening experience. And then the maroon historical points. Number 1 was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks in thick grass. And number 5, maroons knew their European enemies' languages, defenses, and plans.
Thank you, Chief Quietwater. And before we jump into the Emancipation Proclamation, definitely want to go through and read off what we have here in the Constitution. Can everybody see the screen? Oh, good. Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna zoom in here to section 10. Just to re-emphasize, nothing's changed as far as what is considered money this year. No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So according to the Constitution, only gold and silver are classified as legal tender for debts. So anything else would be considered not money, pretty much fiat, and wouldn't be actually paying off the debt, but only be discharging it. So we back out here. Go to section 6 here. Again, we want to re-emphasize that the treaty is the highest law of the land. Article 6 here in the Constitution, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. So again, treaties are the supreme law of the land. And last but not least, we want to reemphasize who has control over the militia. And let me scroll up here. All right, section 2 of Article 2. The president shall be commander-in-chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and the militia of the several states. So again, what we pretty much saw on January 6th of last year was the commander-in-chief, the president, pretty much initiating or calling on the militia. Again, they are the commander-in-chief of not only the Army and the Navy, but the militia as well. And as we stated in one of our, I want to say second to last fiscal quarters of last year, we showed that Georgia, again, is a buffer state under military occupation and how they broke down Georgia basically into militia districts. So that just further coincides with what we're reading here in section 2, Article 2 of the Constitution. Now, what we'll be doing here is jumping into the Emancipation Proclamation. Do I have any volunteers who want to take the first paragraph or first stab at the document here? Anybody? If not, I'll go ahead.
I'll start.
I'll jump on. Okay.
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 Go ahead.
Can you zoom in just a little bit?
Yeah. Let's see, that's the width. Okay.
Okay. Okay, the Emancipation Proclamation, January 1st, 1863. It's a transcription by the President of the United States of America. A proclamation, whereas on the 22nd day of September in the year of our Lord, 1862, a proclamation was issued by the President of the United States containing, among other things, the following, to wit, that on the first day of January in the year of our Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States, shall be then thenceforward and forever free. Okay, and the executive government of the United States. So I'll stop there. So basically it's saying that that any persons held as slaves, that they will be going against the United States. So it's basically stating that in this sentence that you can't have slaves. Correct? That simple? For the first part? Oh. Were you saying something, Chief Biko?
I was gonna say I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
All righty, I'll continue. And the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authority thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of such persons. So basically, the military and naval authority would protect the once slaves' freedom to make sure that, I guess, they're treated fairly or whatever to maintain their freedom, and will do no act or acts to repress such persons or any of them in any efforts that may make for their actual freedom. So basically it's saying that the military and the naval authority would protect them to assist them with maintaining their freedom.
The military will uphold this. The military is pretty much going to uphold this proclamation.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Do you wanna?
Yeah, I'll keep going.
Okay.
That the
Chief Alligator had his hand up. I took the mask off, y'all. Happy.
I didn't see the mask.
Want to be careful in that last sentence you read because it says the executive government of the United States. So
okay,
3 branches: judicial, legislative, and executive.
Okay.
So the only branch that is recognizing these prisoners of war as being now free is the executive branch.
Okay, got you.
Not the judicial and not not Congress or not the court system, only the president, because under war powers, he's commander in chief.
Right.
And as Chief Biko's read out of the Constitution, the president has direct control over the Navy, the militia, and the Army. So you can see Lincoln pretty much demanding that his Chief Blackcoat, you want to help what I'm trying to say? It's almost like he's making his soldiers, like, regardless of what Congress and the judicial branch got to say, y'all ride with me based on the way we organize.
Right. The tone, you can tell he's using his military to pretty much back up what he says. Again, I like how you pointed out executive branch. We know that our president, that's the executive branch, has control of the military. And again, like Chief Quiet Water was saying, anybody that was anybody being owned as a slave or enslaved, he pretty much saying no more, and he's going to use the military to make sure these persons have freedom. But what we know today is he just really wanted more bodies to fight this war coming up.
Okay.
I did have a question regarding this sentence here. All persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of state, the people whereof shall then be in rebellion against the United States. Is he referring to the Confederate states or states that are now classifying themselves as the Confederacy? Or is he saying that the people who are enslaved who were rebellion are now and thenceforth forever free? It just kind of reads a little weird to me.
Good question.
Mm.
The people, just like we the people that formed this government, you got we the people who established these estates. So that's who Lincoln is going to communicate with. We the people who run the United States government, when he's referring to people, he's talking about the people who actually manage the estates. So he's saying the people whereof shall then be in rebellion. Remember, those people have already succeeded from the United States.
Mm-hmm.
That's the people. Each state that succeeded, those are the people he's talking to.
Gotcha.
If you don't release your prisoners of war, AKA slaves, then we're going to look at you as the governor of Georgia as in rebellion.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's okay. He's just putting emphasis on it. So you could really read state or designated part of a state shall be then thenceforward and forever free. So he's just kind of describing who he's referring to as part of those people rebelling. Okay.
That the executive will on the first day of January, aforesaid by proclamation, designate the state and parts of states, if any, in which the people thereof respectively shall then be in rebellion against the United States. So that's kind of like clarifying what we just said, right? It's kind of re-emphasizing. And the fact that any state or the people thereof shall on that day be in good faith represented in Congress of the United States by members chosen thereto at elections wherein a majority of the qualified voters of such state shall have participated. Okay, let me just read that again. The fact that any state. May need some help with this one. I'm not too sure how this reads.
So that's clearing up what Chief Biko was just asking.
Okay.
This paragraph. Now you hear Lincoln saying, if the people of these states that have succeeded,
got you.
Where is it at? Okay, right. Shall on that day in good faith represented in Congress of the United States by men. Basically, he's saying bring your ass to Congress so that we can vote on what we're about to do. Remember, these governors succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay.
if you show up so that we can vote under the United States government, if you show up in Congress and vote as a public servant of the United States government, I'll look at that as you being in good faith. So he's giving them an out. I'm still gonna give you an out before we go to war on you. You got a chance to show up in Congress so we can hash this out.
Got you. Okay.
Makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. Okay. Shall on that day be in good faith represented in Congress of the United States by members chosen thereto at elections wherein a majority of the qualified voters of such state shall have participated. Shall in the absence of strong countervailing testimony be deemed conclusive evidence that such state and the people thereof are not then in rebellion against the United States. So it just all kind of ties in together with what you basically just said.
He's giving them
Correct.
Yep, he's giving them out.
Okay.
Let me see. I'll go ahead and take over this paragraph here. Now, therefore, I, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States, by virtue of the power in me vested as Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States, in time of actual armed rebellion against the authority and government of the United States, and as a fit and necessary war measure for suppressing said rebellion, due on this first day of January in the year of our Lord 1863, and in accordance with my purpose, so to do publicly proclaim for the full period of 100 days from the day first above mentioned, order and designate as the states and part of states wherein people thereof respectively are this day in rebellion against the United States, and the following to wit. So this is pretty much the proclamation that he's stating here in this paragraph, pretty much proclaiming that anybody who doesn't agree with the terms laid in that previous paragraph within that 100 days. So he not only sets the conditions, he also gives a time frame here. First 100 days. If you don't, again, like Chief Alligator stated, if you don't send your congressman to pretty much the Capitol in regards to the voting, then we'll consider that rebellion and pretty much start this war known as the Civil War here. Let's see here, to the following to wit: Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, except the parishes of St. Bernard, Plaquemines, Jefferson, St. John, St. Charles, St. James, Assumption, Terrebonne, La Forque, St. Mary, St. Martin, and Orleans, including the city of New Orleans, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, except the 48 counties designated as West Virginia, and also the counties of Berkeley, Accomack, Northampton, Elizabeth City, York, Prince Anne, and Norfolk, including the cities of Norfolk and Portsmouth, in which accepted parts are for the present left precisely as if this proclamation were not issued. So he's specifically identifying those states who have succeeded, and then even clarifying those particular counties or what was it called, parishes in these particular states that are pretty much exempt from this proclamation. So it's being very precise in regards to who he's referring to as far as these states.
Why would they be exempt? Just a question to y'all. Why would they be exempt?
These
Why
here,
would
my first thought is for economic reasons. I think a lot of these are on the coast, just off the top of my head. I know New Orleans is. You see if some other ones that I can think of.
all of those are by waterways.
Yeah, they all seem to be by waterways, which of course, if
That was a
he
good point.
didn't exempt those, then that would be just beneficial for the seceding states.
Okay.
I would think, oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say these are the states that wrote in to Lincoln, like, hey, we agree with what you have going on.
Correct. If we look at what Lincoln was asking these people or governors to do, or senators or Congress people, he was asking them to communicate with me, come to Congress. Those places that are exempt are people who sent their representatives, or their representatives reached out and were like, hey, we'll be there. You see what I'm saying? Because what he's doing now is he's putting them on the scale. He's putting all those states that succeeded, he's putting the people or the representatives within those estates, he's putting them on the scale. Who's going to show up and who's not? Whoever doesn't show up, you in violation.
Makes sense. And that kind of goes back to some of the states who we read when they were seceding, they didn't hold votes. Some of them was just like, we the people of the state of Georgia, for instance. And as we stated, that we the people was a small group. So it probably wasn't getting these people from St. Bernard or these local governments exactly from St. Bernard and these other ones to get their input. So that's a great point out right there. Did anybody want to pick up here and by virtue of power?
I'll do it.
Go.
Okay.
I'm scroll down just a little bit. All right. Scroll down just a little bit for me. I'm on my phone. Oh, my bad. Go up there. Right there. That's cool. All right. And by power, and by virtue of power, and for the purpose aforesaid, I do order and declare the persons held as slaves within said designated states and parts of states are and henceforth shall be free, and that the executive government of the United States, including the military and naval authorities, thereof, will recognize and maintain the freedom of said persons. Again, Lincoln is saying by the power invested in him, he's going to use his military to uphold his proclamation, saying any states holding people as slaves is no longer, and the military is going to make sure that slave masters just don't have slaves.
Can we add one
I
thing
hereby
before you keep going? Remember that there's two separate governments now.
right.
The Confederacy is a separate government, so Lincoln can't proclaim anything to the Confederacy. Separate government. So they're looking at this Emancipation Proclamation and they basically can wipe their behind with it. Why? We dissolved the relationship. We're not a part of the United States.
Separate nation.
And I hereby enjoin upon the people so declared to be free to abstain from all violence unless in necessary self-defense. And I recommend to them that in all cases when allowed, they labor faithfully for reasonable wages. So now here, Lincoln is pretty much saying if you're, now you're freemen, you got the right to protect yourselves, and you can work for, you can labor faithfully for reasonable wages. So protect yourself in Lincoln's proclamation, and you can work for or labor faithfully for reasonable wages, meaning labor faithfully for whatever they give you.
Right.
That pretty much sums it up.
So let's stop right here for a second. They weren't free.
Right.
You got to remember, it was a rogue military that took over the Creek Confederacy and took over the trade routes and took over all the gold and all the minerals and resources that came out of the land called America, right? What Lincoln just did in that statement that Chief Blackcoat just read is locked and boxed those people that he was quote unquote freeing. He just made you a permanent working class. He didn't say you can own anything. He just said you can work. And here we are today. This document, it puts us in the basement in the social order, and we're stuck there to today. That's why everybody else comes over here and they become a part of the business sector. But when public officials talk to our group, they always talk about jobs.
Which is why they say reasonable wages is basically whatever they say they're going to give us, not
Minimum
what we
wage.
demand. Right. Exactly.
Basically saying minimum wage. And just to go back on both, I know Chief Quietwater stated this in a few weeks ago, goes back to the education system, how we're not taught to be business owners.
Right.
We're taught to be employees. We're taught to be, working
Further
9 to 5.
indoctrinated with
Correct.
college,
Laborers.
and then after
Laborers.
college, labor faithfully for a reasonable wage.
So everything is in line, exactly. Labor faithfully for a reasonable wage, not to own anything, as Chief Alligator was stating.
Let me ask one more question on that. What happens if the military or the militia is not around and you commit violence on a European? What happens to you? In this moment in American history, in this moment, if there's no military personnel around to protect you, the judicial branch isn't going to protect you, and Congress, the legislative branch, isn't going to protect you. So you see the catch-22 that they were in?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. If it ain't no military personnel there, and you kill that European for raping your wife,
It's your word versus their word. And at this point, we going with the European male. Like you stated.
And then again, it's the executive branch. I think that's what Chief Alligator trying to point out. It's just the executive branch popping big shit. Everybody else is just like, so yeah, if if a new freed American get into some trouble, his ass out to the wind. It's just whatever with him.
Mhm.
Back to being a slave, back to being however they want it.
And the key thing too is no nation. You know,
Mm.
they're saying you can work in self-defense, but again, they don't have that nation backing them up because they've all been removed to quote unquote the Indian territory. So that as
There's
well.
no
So
real protection at
correct,
all.
correct.
No, none. They're just out there.
Yeah.
Hoping to look for labor.
Right.
Let me see.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll finish it. And I further declare and make known that such persons of suitable conditions will be received into the armed service of the United States to garrison forts, positions, stations, and other places, and to the manned vessels of all sorts in said service, and to manned vessels of all sorts in said services. So here Lincoln is saying, and I further declare and make known that such persons of suitable conditions. So if you're in shape or if you're in good condition to fight in his army, the United States government, then he will take you, and you'll just have different positions. Pretty much, you'll be a fighter, but that part about manned vessels of all sorts and said services, that's probably work military vehicle. All types of any type of vessel, any type of military armory, and armed service United States garrison force positions. So positions, stations, and garrisons, all land for the United States military. So Lincoln was pretty much saying he'll take you. He'll take all the bodies he can get if you can pass the requirement to be in the military. Anybody want to build on that?
Yeah, let's throw one thing in there. Watch the mind game. This is a mind control thing. Lincoln is claiming that he's freeing people that are on military work camps up south. When I say up south, we were talking about this last week, Chief Blackcoat, that the North really is down south. Because the South, what we're living in now, the South, we're actually elevated. We're above sea level. New York, Virginia, all of that is sea level. So we're actually higher than them. But this is
that's a great point out.
This is a mind game because he never made you a citizen in this proclamation. He said you were free. So you got to understand, you got the people of the United States government, which are representatives, and then you got the citizens of that government, which are Europeans. You're not a citizen of that government. He's just declaring you free under the executive branch and telling you if your body's in good shape, now you're going to fight for the same government that just had you on military work camps. You see the mind game?
Yeah, that just enslaves you, right? like he's giving them something. Like, look, here's this. You can do this, or I'll take it away from you. It's yeah. This is a nasty mind game because now you got people still today thinking we can free the slaves.
Correct. Correct.
Right.
And like you were stating before though too, it's he's saying that these people who are underneath the Confederacy government nation are free, but again, you don't have any power over their nation. So if they wanted to, like, where you going? Ain't like you could just walk off this military camp, like you were stating there too. So it's a whole lot of mental warfare going on.
Let me throw I was going to throw one more thing in. Our group of people did not receive government benefits until the Vietnam War.
What year was that?
1960s.
60s.
In other words, like I got family members,
right.
A lot of us do. We got family members that fought in World War I, World War II, Korean War, Civil War. Remember, you're not a citizen. So you're literally willing to put your life on the line for a government that had you on a military work camp, but you don't get a GI Bill, you don't get any benefits. I'm just trying to show the parallel of you're not a citizen. So you're fighting for something and you're going to get nothing in return. I got I have relatives that fought in World War I and World War II. They didn't get anything. So you literally will put your life on the line and come back to America and nothing. I just want to throw that in so we can see what he's doing. He's a lawyer by trade, so he's a wordsmith. He's very meticulous with what he's saying. And I'll stop right there.
All right, where we took off at?
Right here, and go ahead and just read it all the way through if you can, Chief Blackcoat.
I got you. And upon this act, sincerely believed to be an act of justice, warranted by the Constitution, upon military necessity, I invoke the considerate judgment of mankind, and the gracious favor of Almighty God. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States to be affixed. Done at the city of Washington, the first day of January, in the year of our Lord, 1863, and of the independence of the United States of America, the 87th, of the President Abraham Lincoln. So sounds like Abraham Lincoln just putting his stamp on his proclamation right now, saying what he's standing on what he just said, as far as laboring faithfully for reasonable wages, being able to be in good health and good condition to fight in his military. And yeah, he just put his stamp on it down there at Washington, D.C.
Can you see why they killed him, y'all? Right here in this last sentence, Chief Blackcoat read, Lincoln says, and of the independence of the United States. Haven't we heard the rogue military sign treaties in the South, independent of the United States? So what Lincoln is doing is he's saying, fuck Congress and fuck my judicial branch. This is what I'm doing. And so you're pissing off the Europeans and the other branches of that government because they're not voting on it. He's acting on the war powers. Y'all.
Wow. Yeah.
Basically saying I'm doing this regardless of what Congress say and what the judicial branch say. And so you can see why they kill him, because these Europeans are like, wait a minute, we set this government up for our people coming from Europe. We don't want the Americans that didn't go to Indian territory during the American Removal Act. We don't want them to be a part of our government.
Right.
Y'all with me?
Yeah. Wow. Just that little sentence right there makes all the difference. Independence of the United States of America. And we wouldn't have known that unless we would have, picked apart what we had previously. Well, I would not have known that until we picked apart what we had previously read.
Same.
With the sessions.
We saw this a lot, and of the independence. So regardless of if they sign off or not.
Right.
Correct. We probably saw that in every treaty or quote unquote treaty, because again, it was in the independence of the United States. Did want to show just this imagery because it definitely goes hand in hand, piggybacks off of what we were stating. So in this image here, this is again the proclamation. On the left-hand side is showing the living conditions, the savagery of being enslaved. They try to portray that. Trying to see if I could zoom in a little bit more. This look like this about as far as I can go. Let me see. Yeah, it ain't even letting me zoom in though. Let me see. How does that look on y'all screen?
A little better.
A little better. On this left-hand side is showing pretty much military occupation, being whipped and beaten, sold on the auction block or transferred to another military camp. See if I can slide down here. On this one, again, separating the families, things of that nature. Wow. And then as far as the proclamation, this is the picture that Lincoln is trying to paint. Everybody's joyful, happy. Again, what was the term? Labor, favorable labor. Going to the white man, the European for a job instead of owning your own. This is your land, but you'll still have to come for us for anything that you want from this land. Again, not beating you, but still overseeing you. Teachers still overseeing you. It kind of goes in here. We'll educate your children on what they are, who they are, where they are, and things of that nature. So this is the pretty much what we're currently
Church.
in.
Wow,
Church
I
age.
never knew that was those pictures were actually on there.
Mhm.
Wow. Interesting.
So just to further emphasize what we just read, again, weren't free, didn't have any rights as far as citizenship, no protections, no nation behind us or anything. And this is pretty much currently where our people are.
Yeah.
Still prisoners of war, just in different living conditions. Still overseer, everything.
Can we kind of look at big picture real quick?
Mhm.
We know now that there was a mass exodus in America from the Southeast region into Oklahoma. We know a lot of people did not go into Oklahoma, which is why you got 1, 2, and 3 Seminole War. Those people are who we descend from. So now they're under a rogue military's occupation in what now is the Confederate States, right? The politics start from this point all the way into January 2nd, 2022. There are Europeans that understand the history of this government, and they understand that people of our lineage were never supposed to be citizens of their government, which is why after this Civil War, it took another 100 years to do another Civil Rights Act, because you were never recognized as a citizen. Are y'all with me? This is a critical point in American history. What you call a redneck that walk around wearing our ancestors' Confederate flag, they understand the truth, and they are right in a way. We're not supposed to be citizens of their government because it's a foreign government. Confederacies were on this land. And so the fight is they never really want us to be citizens of it. You really can't, because you're the American.
I like how you said that. You can't be a citizen of a foreign entity. You're the American. Yeah, you got a lot of white people walking around today, with the Confederate flag. We know today that was all from the government. And like Chief Alligator keeps iterating, you were never supposed to be a citizen of that government. So, not that I give a fuck about European, but they have a reason to be mad. You're fucking up everything. Well, not really, because you decided to come over here, but they're looking at it like, yo, you fucking up everything we got going on. We didn't want to account for any of the Americans, and then they had to do all of this because of Abraham Lincoln. So that started, like Chief Alligator said, that started the politics. I'm saying it started the war, but Chief Alligator said it started the politics. So I like that way too.
I would definitely agree. It kind of even goes to kind of what we're dealing with now as far as, how can the American be a citizen of a foreign fictional government? And then it's kind of like, even if we want to take it even further, it's like, so when they say should illegal aliens have the right to vote? Well, it's like, okay, well, what is illegal aliens? If they of this land, like a Mexican, they're an American.
Right.
But again, that would still be weird because you're having the American still enter into this foreign fictional government that we know as the United States. So it's like a lot of confusion and pretty much just confusion going around in regards to this government. Like they're just pulling for strings at this point, but we can see all where it pretty much started. And it was right here.
Wow.
Let me see. And I say this is found again in the Library of Congress. So all of this information, these pictures, these documents are being pulled straight from this government. You see, we got about 11 minutes as far as left in this hour. Let me see what we have here. I did want to look up the definition of both emancipation and Emancipation Proclamation, just to get, some, I guess, legal definition of the two. Emancipation, the act by which one who was unfree or under the power and control of another is rendered free or set at liberty and made his own master. But that seems to not be, I guess, correlate to what we just read in Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation. Again, have favorable labor or favorable labor, work for favorable wage. That doesn't seem like a master. It still seems like they're still in that same position, just with a different title. And that pretty much has been shown throughout history.
Can we pull something apart on what you just said? Because what a lot of people like to do in this part of American history, or any part of it, they kind of treat it like religion, where I'm gonna use a preacher, for example. They'll start in Genesis and then jump to Luke, John. They never start from the beginning and let you get the whole picture. We're doing this because we want people to get the whole picture. But I gotta throw this one thing in on what you said, Chief Biko. What people talk about with the Civil War is they'll bring up the Dred Scott case. Everybody's heard of that case, the Dred Scott case?
Right.
That's a different branch of their government. That's the judicial branch.
Judicial, correct.
That's the court system saying, we don't recognize you. Prisoner of war, right? You'll never have the rights that we have. That's the court system saying that. But then you got Lincoln, who the executive branch only, saying that he's emancipating you. But your Congress and your court system are saying different. They're saying no, which is why 1965 had to come around, and Lyndon Baines Johnson, the president, again, had to do an executive order. Congress didn't do it. We gotta understand, this government has never, all branches have never agreed that, yeah, we're gonna make y'all citizens. It's never happened.
Never happened.
Yeah. And we see where it first started here, and just again, of the independence of the United States. So like Chief Alligator just stated, of the independence of the United States Congress, of the independence of the United States judicial system. So we have these three branches bumping heads, and that's pretty much what we always see when there's like a stalemate in Congress, or nothing's getting done, because again, as Chief Alligator alluded to, we were never supposed to be a part of this government.
That's the most important phrase right there of it all. That just, I mean, and that's the most important part of it.
Let's just roll back to last year real quick, because Negroes have short-term memories. Everybody in Congress, which is the legislative branch, every representative voted for you to have a slave holiday. But every member in Congress didn't vote for the George Floyd Act. You're seeing it now.
Today,
They'll give you a holiday, but protect you and recognize you as a full citizen with all rights of European peasants?
Of course not.
No, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
and
you're asking for too much.
So here we are now. And our highly scholared people that are invested in this system, the issue is we're having a civil war right now, because they're trying to promote us continuing to be the minority. And that was the flaw of Dr. King. The flaw of Dr. King is he brought religion to the business table. Your belief system has nothing to do with business. He came to the table with this moral idea. And so that allowed the United States government to say, okay, we'll reclassify you and call you minority, and then we'll let everybody from around the world come under this minority tag, which means you never get nothing specifically. And here we are 50 years later.
Right.
Great point. Great point.
It's time for another reconstruction, is what is the point. It's time
for sure.
That shit don't work. That 1965 shit ain't worth nothing. Why you still voting Why does Congress have to vote every 25 years that we can vote under their
Keep
government?
our voting rights, right?
Mm,
And we're going along with it, like
mhm.
that a light bulb doesn't come off in people's head. Like, why do we have to continue to vote for the right to vote?
Because you're not a
Hey, like yeah, they
Mhm.
Oh my
slavery
God.
slavery is a choice, and we still out here choosing and
Right.
can't vote no more. You
Like,
can't vote. What?
it's so
Our
crazy,
girls
man.
so funny.
It's so
It's
crazy.
hilarious. Because it's like, how can you allow government to continue just to act like you're a child? Ooh, I'll give you this. I'll give you this for that. Like, come on,
Mhm.
man. We out here talking about voting rights. What are we talking about?
They're showing us that they don't want us to be a part of their government. We were never supposed to be. So
We don't want to be a part of it.
what's the other option? Exactly. What's the other option? Create your own.
Yeah.
Reclassify your
All
own
peace.
land, your own
Right.
confederacy.
It just takes
It's
a
really
small
theater.
portion of
Mhm.
us, like-minded people to, just like they did, to put a plan together and to stick to it. It don't have to be a massive amount of us to come together to make a decision to do something
Separate.
for us. Yeah, to separate.
We just read how they did it. And as Chief Quietwater alluded to, it wasn't a lot of them. You saw they weren't even all in unison with their
Right.
decisions. Again, we just saw except these
Mhm.
particular counties, these particular parishes. So
Yeah.
they was
Right.
like, nah, I still want to be a part. And again, we're
Right.
gonna have some Negroes, some Black people. I still want to be a part, and that's fine. But you see, as you see in history, you pretty much
Be a
reap
part
what
of
you
what
sow.
though?
Exactly, be a part of what? You
You
haven't been
want to labor
getting
faithfully
anything.
for reasonable wages?
Correct,
And
correct. You want to
like
be a
you
part of
pointed
their
at G
armed
Pico.
forces?
Right. You don't want to be a master of your own.
Correct. That's true emancipation.
Right.
That's true
Liberty.
emancipation.
One thing on
That's
that,
true
that's why
liberty.
we do these inventors like this guy that I did today. That industry is ours. The transmission industry is ours. But what Lincoln did is said, no, you can work and you can make transmissions, but you're not going to own the industry.
You
Right.
won't be a master of it.
So all
Right.
people that invented these industries, he basically just said, we're going to take that from you and you can work in that industry. But we're going to take what you created and we'll manage it and we'll own it.
Mhm.
Y'all with me?
Oh
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
it's plain and simple right here. I think this just really solidified it. And then as you were bringing in those examples of how we have to continue to ask for the same thing every 100 years, every quarter of a century, every,
Mhm.
all of these times. And it's like, well, damn, when we just gonna be like, yeah, we ain't even dealing with y'all no more. Let's bounce.
Right.
And not bounce to
They
another continent, but just bounce out of this fictional, this
Right.
matrix that we're living in.
Exactly.
So
well, that's you're talking about war then, but
mhm.
it's like it's like they want us to still need to depend on them. So they'll dangle something in front of you, like voting rights. Say, hey, do you still want to be a part of this government? And instead of everybody saying, man, fuck, we don't need, what are you talking about?
Mhm.
We're all in a panic of
Right.
voting rights. And it's like,
Mhm.
what? You've
And you're
been
not
voting
getting
how
anything.
long? And you're not getting anything. And
Mhm.
now all of a sudden they can just tell you we got to re-vote. So, like Chief Quietwater was trying to point at, they're trying to tell you that you got to re-vote again to have the right to vote. Why are we still being children under this government? Have we
Mhm.
grown up yet? Can we make our own decisions now?
And that's the thing, man. Like he stated, why you're begging to vote and be a part of this system that hasn't given you anything. So why not try something different? Again,
Right.
as
Try
we all
something different.
stated, let's sit down for 90 days, say, you know what? Damn your voting rights. Y'all do what y'all want to do. We're going to sit back. Don't ask us for nothing. We take our own money and things of that nature, and then see the impact
Right.
of what it has. Because like you stated, this is why they want us to be a part of this, so we can have this faithfully labor for these reasonable wages, but they're making, of course, tenfold, 100-fold, 1,000-fold off of our labor, off of our inventions, things of that
Exactly.
nature. That's why the only
Well,
reason why they want us to continue to play the game.
I think it's
Right.
2 reasons. Chief Blackcoat said that will be war. Let me ask y'all something. No representation, no taxation without representation.
Hmm.
You're not
Hmm.
represented, but you pay taxes.
That's what they said too.
Right.
To
So
get their independence.
kind of saying for us to stand up as a group, that means that we're really declaring war
Mm-hmm.
against
For
Right.
independence.
Against this government. And the other side of that, when Chief Blackcoat and Chief Biko were asking, you know, why do we keep playing this game? The harsh reality is it's not enough of us that are going to do what we're doing. We're leaders on this channel.
Right.
We're showing you that you cannot beat a system unless you first learn the rules of it.
Right.
Most of us have never read the Emancipation Proclamation. Most of us have
Mhm.
never read the Constitution. Most of us have never read the treaties, excuse me, from where your family descends from on this land. So you're clueless.
Mhm.
It's mind-blowing to me that this government can enslave you and do everything it did to you, and you know none of the documents that your ancestors fought for. So how can we be politically? We are political children, Chief Biko,
Mhm.
because most of us don't know any.
Minorities.
We don't know any
Right.
article of this Constitution.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
We're not ready yet. As I hate to say that, but yes, everybody on this channel, man, I'm gonna continue to congratulate y'all because you're doing something that it should be common for us. But look at the views on the channel. All we're doing is reading the doc. How can you beat a system if you? How can you play a video game and you don't know how it works?
Right.
Mm.
Right.
And that's all this is a game.
A video game, correct, y'all.
Yeah. It's just like we aren't in tune with ourselves. Like you said, it's the maroon historical points. They knew their enemies' language, defenses, and plans. That's
It
shit. The art of war right there. You got to know your
boils
enemy.
down to,
You know, you got to know
it
your
all
enemy.
boils
So
down to, it just all boils down to the Americans not knowing American history. That's what we're doing. That's why we do this.
Mhm.
So there is nobody in the judicial branch or the executive branch that look like us with a pen that understand American history. That's why we keep losing.
Mhm.
Because all of this is pen game. Everything we've been reading is pen.
Mhm.
We ain't looking at videos. We looking at people just walk right back and forth.
Mhm.
We ain't got nobody up there that understand American history. They know how to write.
Yep.
We just need writers now at this point. Because what are we doing? Like, we can easily write up some legislative, write up some document, and present it and be like, "What's up?"
Right.
We're not children. Like, we continue to act like children under this government. Like, we just gotta, beg and ask, "Can I please?" What are we doing?
Yeah.
Grown men and women out here.
But no, that's pretty much where we at right now. And as we all pretty much alluded to, we have to do the work. We've done it for a whole year. This is a new year. We're stepping into some new information, but we post these videos. We record these videos for our people to finally wake up. This is the work you have to do in order to get up out of this situation we're currently in. Just understand your enemy. Understand how they
Right.
document everything, understand how they work, understand they're business oriented, they account for everything,
Mhm.
and they are contractors. Everything that we've discussed has been one of those three topics or those three subjects. So us
Contractors.
understanding that and then moving forward, that's how we'll get up out of this situation. As far as next week, we'll probably jump into that quote unquote Civil Rights Act of 1866
Well, we'll have to do
or the Civil War.
we'll do the document that quote unquote ended the Civil War,
Okay.
because this document kicks it off,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll get into there's no treaty. So
Correct.
this war never ended. That's why I said what I said earlier, that this is the politics right now, is this never ended. The Seminole Wars and this Civil War never ended. They do not want you to be a citizen of their government. And
Mm-hmm.
today, you're still not a full citizen of the government, which is why they keep changing our name. They keep changing our name. They're treating us like kids or pets. It's worse than a kid. You change a pet's name, you're black.
Correct.
You're colored.
Correct.
Afro-American now.
Mhm.
No, better yet, you're people of color.
And this information they never wanted us to know. You know, sitting there changing our names around. We're literally just out here like
Yeah.
a fairy tale. They just keep updating the fairy tale and keep selling it, the new children's book to the. We have to, as a group, we have to have some type of authority about ourselves, because there's not. We stand on nothing right now. We just allow these people to continue to move us around and to change our name. Who knows what we'll be in the next 2, 3, 4 years?
Right.
Be some random shit, and our group just go along with it. I'm like, wait, what? We what now? You'll see it on your application. You'll be like, what?
Nice. Everybody's absolutely correct on this. And shoot, great build today. We're gonna pick up next week in regards to, again, the ending, or the quote unquote ending of the Civil War. As Chief Alligator stated, it never ended. Neither did the Seminole War. So again, just keeping us in this state of confusion, but we're here to unravel that, to clear up, give that 2020 vision, or 2022 vision, because it's part 2 right here. So we getting ready, getting prepared. So
Yeah.
I think we could.